Hello and welcome to Beyond Freud. So today I wanted to talk about something different, not an analyst or a reading or a theme, psychoanalytic theme. Rather, I want to talk about this fellowship that I am currently enrolled in. I wanted more people to know about it because of how great a fellowship it is, and also as an opportunity. It is amazing. The fellowship that I am enrolled in has been provided by WBCP, and it is the Psychoanalytic Fellowship Adult. So it also has a child psychoanalysis component, and I believe you can apply for both of them at the same time, though there are criteria regarding that as well, regarding your application to any of them. So before I really get into explaining or talking about the fellowship, let's also start by knowing what WBCP is. It's a center for psychoanalysis, and it has, if you go to the website, it has a lovely mission statement, which is to educate and support psychoanalysts, psychotherapists, scholars, and to collaborate with members of the community in applying psychoanalytic knowledge to psychosocial problems. And I believe that's a really great use of psychoanalysis, and I'm definitely not the first person to say this, because psychoanalysis is beyond the clinic as well, and it's out there as a critical theory. It's out there in its application to psychosocial problems, and that's the beauty of psychoanalysis. And I believe the center has greatly utilized this idea in their desire to spread awareness about psychoanalysis more. And that's a much needed aim for most of the societies, because psychoanalysis has a really, you can say, infamous reputation for being always within a circle. Like, it's often thought of as something only which the elite or the rich can have access to. The very fact that it's free of tuition also shows us how dedicated the center is in spreading this information about psychoanalysis and this awareness, and how it also provides people who do not have access to affordable psychoanalytic training, especially as the situation is in India right now. Opportunities like these are really worthwhile. So if you want to apply for the WBCP fellowship, you can go to the website and click on Pathways of Study. Over there is the Psychoanalytic Fellowship program, which tells you what it is about, what the curriculum is, what the logistics are, how the admission happens, and the contact as well. You can also have continuing education credits, which you do have to pay for, and also the application. It's only the application which requires $20, and that's it. There's no other money involved in it. And once you're also considered a fellow, you do have free access to a lot of conferences that WBC holds, and they have amazing lectures currently coming up. One of them is based on the book Women, the Longest Revolution. So I, as a fellow, can apply to a number of lectures free of cost. So I'll come to the logistics, since I've already talked about the admission here and there. So the logistics are that for 1 month we have 2 sessions, and in the other we have 1. So that's how it goes on, and I believe mine is ending on April 2025, I believe. And it says on the website that applications must be received no later than June 30th, 2024. And by early September, you get to know if you're in or not. And you can also see announcements for when they open up on their Instagram page. So it's better, if you do want to apply next year, to keep an eye out around the months of May, June, July. Most probably before June, that would be great, since this year's deadline was June 30th, 2024, and I believe they keep the same deadline every year. But the one way that will ensure that you do not miss out on the deadline is by staying updated, by having a look on the Instagram profile, follow it, keep a reminder so that you can check their Instagram during the time of May, early June, so that you can prepare all the documents which are required and submit your application. So the format of the sessions is that you will have a seminar, technically, where there will be a case presented by a practicing psychoanalyst on clinically related topics, and you might also be provided an additional reading which you can read beforehand and then come to the session and then have a look at the case which is being presented through the themes of the reading as well. Primarily, what the fellowship is based on is on discussions. What I liked about the discussions was that it was not simply a place where you contribute and nothing happens to the replies. And I am highlighting this point because like I said at the start of the video, in India it is difficult to find accessible and affordable psychoanalytic training which is also of quality, and you need a community. So it's like my personal belief that in order to take psychoanalysis forward, there has to be a sense of community among the practitioners, especially in places where you don't have that many established societies as well. And there's a lot of confusion and a sense of loss, especially when you're like an early career therapist, but later on, as far as I've heard, later on also this sense of loss continues. You can say that I believe like it's the duty of the more experienced individual to be able to provide guidance if they themselves are involved in spreading awareness about psychoanalysis for the therapists, because the mode of psychoanalysis is then only able to go beyond the private clinic or even the hospital setting and be adapted to the needs and requirements of a society. I am highlighting more of an institutional support, which I feel like a lot of us do find today lacking in today's like education system, or even like post-education. You don't really have that much support. You need an experienced psychoanalyst or psychodynamic practitioner to give you a glimpse of how the work goes. Since I've talked about what WBCP is, what it is doing, and about the fellowship, I'll just tell you a little bit about the September session. So we studied Turning Aggression on the Self, a study of psychoanalytic process. And we also utilized Brenner's conception of depressive states. We will not be discussing the details of the case due to confidentiality. What I can tell you was how the discussion allowed us to understand the various defense mechanisms and how they play out in the presentation of a patient. The aim of providing us with the reading was for us to look at a case through a particular theme, which also helps in case formulation. The session started by providing us with the initial details of the client as to how did they reach out to the analyst. This threw light on what the first contact with the patient can tell us. For example, and this is in no way related to the case which was discussed, if the client insists on a telephonic conversation rather than a video meet, which a lot of people are doing right now, this might also tell us a bit about the client. We moved then on to the personal details, which was shared, keeping in mind again the confidentiality clause. So now the way the case is presented always feels more linear than the way the work is done, but it allows us to know what we can focus on when we ourselves are looking at our own patients or trying to formulate a case about them. Looked at major events which had happened in the client's life, the way they presented themselves in the physical space of the therapy room and in their own physical space back home, and developmental stages also in relation to how they are with their parents, how they are with their siblings, and how the whole family dynamic is. So though this is common knowledge, it is very interesting to see how it unfolds in an actual case, and also what that developmental stage means for the patient's life and how it actually has an impact. Then we had further discussions on what the participants thought about the relationship of the events to the client's presenting concerns, and if they could read a particular theme or any theme which kept coming up in the presentation. And we know a lot of work is about patterns. So the end of the formulation is definitely to understand if we can, see, you can say like a reflection of the symptoms in the past of the client. The idea of the formulation is to put forward an image of the client, like we should be able to imagine them as a person with a history and a context which made them what they are today right in front of us. This exercise also taught us the importance of reflection and the psychoanalytic notion of overdeterminism, because it is not a straightforward cause and effect situation which is going on over here. Rather, there are many perspectives to the concerns that a client brings in, and reflecting upon it during the case presentation also showed the participants themselves that there are many ways to look at one thing, and consequently there can be many causes to that one thing. So this is like more or less the gist of how the fellowship goes, and I am looking forward to these upcoming sessions. It's been quite an eye-opener in a lot of senses. So that's there, and I hope this video has been informational in spreading the word about WBCP fellowships. I know there are many other, but I did look them up. They were usually you had to pay them, and they were quite expensive. I can't pay for them. So if you can, that's great actually. If you cannot, just like me, you can have a look at WBCP as well. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, you can write them down in the comments. I'll see if I'm able to answer them. If I cannot, I'll let you know about that also. And thank you for watching.